Coming up this week on the Battle Cry, unbelievable. Congress can't get its own house in order. Are you surprised? Of course not, but we're going to talk about some of the specifics on this week's Battle Cry. Hey everyone, Mark Meckler here, president of Convention of States with this week's Battle Cry. Thanks for joining me. You guys are why we do it. Make it so worthwhile and so enjoyable because it's all about the grassroots. That's you, that's me, that's who we are, that's what we do. So I'm glad to have you guys here with me. You know, I always do a call to action every week because we're not just about talking, we're actually about doing things. And I have an unusual call to action this week. And you guys might find this strange. It's not political, it's not media oriented. It's just some good, clean home advice, which is time to get some chickens. I know that sounds super weird. And maybe you don't like chickens. Maybe you never thought about having chickens. But here at the Meckler household, let you in on a little secret. We are officially now, what do you call it? Chicken ranchers, chicken farmers, chicken tenders? I don't know what you call it, but whatever we are, we've got 12 hens and a rooster. They're a lot of fun. They're amazing. We get free eggs. Now, I want to clarify here something. When I say free eggs, that's called chicken math, because in chicken math, you spend the money to build the chicken run. You spend the money to build the coop or buy the coop. You spend the money to buy all the feed and all the stuff, accessories, the feed bowls, water bowls, all that, whatever you're buying. You buy the stuff for inside the hen house, the straw, whatever you use, shavings. You buy all this stuff, and then you buy your chickens. And after you buy your chickens, the chickens grow up, feed them that whole way. There's more feed expense. There's more expense. And then you start getting eggs, which is really the fun part. And when you start getting the eggs, what's really cool is if you don't think about the math, you don't realize you just spent like $40 per egg or something ridiculous like that. I'm sure the cost goes down over time, but it's not to save money. That's not why you do it. One is, you're getting good, healthy eggs. Chickens aren't fed hormones. You're probably not spraying a lot of pesticides in your chicken pen because they pick it clean, by the way. So you're getting a healthy product. That's kind of cool. I think it connects you to the land. In a lot of residential neighborhoods, you can even do this. HOAs might prevent it, especially if you have a rooster. You don't have to have a rooster, but you know that you're producing your own food. You know where it comes from. You know what goes into it. I think that's pretty cool. I also use it as a form of therapy. Yeah, I need therapy. I get pretty wound up about politics. Sometimes I just go outside, sit down in the chicken pen with a cup of iced tea or a beer or whatever, and just watch the chickens. Kind of interesting. It's like watching an aquarium or something. It is pretty relaxing. Patty and I will go out there in the evenings, feed the chickens a little bit, watch them interact. It really does decompress me. I got to be honest with you about that. But I'm going to forewarn you, if you have chickens, you will have the occasion chicken catastrophe. Before I came in to do the Battle Cry this week, I went out there, was going to feed the chickens a little bit. Didn't exactly go as planned. This happens sometimes. I went out there, I went to feed them. Unfortunately, all the feed had been invaded by ants. Not just ants, but fire ants. Put my food in the feed bucket, went to grab a jar of food to put it in, and all of a sudden there were ants crawling all over me. The chickens, by the way, were very happy. They didn't consider it a catastrophe at all. They like eating the ants. They don't mind the ants. So I threw down the food, spread a bunch of food around. Chickens super happy, Mark super unhappy, brushing the ants off myself. It was a total mess. And by the way, I still have to go back out there and deal with this mess. I need new feed. They were even in, this might gross you out, we have worms that we feed them, dried worms, mealworms. What do they call them? Black sergeant ant or black sergeant fly larva or something like that. Anyway, they were in everything. So I need all new feed. This is raising my price per egg. I have to do a bunch of work cleaning them out. But yes, still worth it. I love having chickens. So it makes me feel like I really do live out in the country. We do live on some acres, but you feel like a real farmer, a real rancher. Now, I know all you real farmers, real ranchers are laughing at me. That's half the point. I deserve to be laughed at. All right, we're going to get into the battle cry, but Go out and get some chickens. If you already have them, write in and tell me to our Ask Mark link, and you'll see that on the screen. You can tell me about your chickens. You can ask me about your chickens. My main rooster, only one rooster, his name is Ike. There is a story behind that. Maybe I'll tell you that at some point. All right, let's jump right into the news. This is this week's news. Let's start with the Virginia gerrymander. The Virginia legislature passed something to put it on the ballot to gerrymander their state. Literally worse than maybe any state's ever been gerrymandered. I actually think it is the worst in history, leaving them with only one Republican seat. They had put that on the ballot. When they put it on the ballot, it barely passed. I think there's probably some voter shenanigans in there. It is a blue state. There's almost always voter shenanigans in a blue state, and it barely passed. And what that does is literally take a state that's 45-55 in favor of Democrat registration, and it removes all Republican representation in Congress except one seat. And I'm not against gerrymandering, by the way. I'm not freaked out about it like most people are, but this is about as partisan as it gets. What that says to me is, to Republicans, when the Democrats scream about gerrymandering, they've been doing it for a long time. Look at the entire Eastern Seaboard. Look at places like Connecticut or Massachusetts. Those places are so gerrymandered, and they have been for many years. I think Republicans just need to get in the game and start doing the same thing. Unless we call off the whole thing and everybody agrees to make it sort of equal based on the number of voters, hard to do, but we could get close to that. Unless everybody calls off the game and wants to do that, then Republicans need to do it. And I think the good news is we're going to see more of that happen. Texas did it already this year. Texas may even do more. But right now, a circuit judge has said absolutely that law is dead on arrival. He called it ab initio. That means the law never goes into effect. It's just was inappropriately passed. It was one of the greatest slap down opinions I've ever seen. He said that they violated procedure. They violated by naming it something completely inaccurate, untrue, and misleading. They called it the Fair Elections in Virginia Act or something like that. And it's just ridiculous. So that's a bias. It's not descriptive. They said that they violated the process by which it was done. So I think this thing is this overruling or this shutdown is going to be sustained. That single judge erased it overnight. Of course, they will appeal. The government will appeal. Jay Jones, I think, Jay Johnson is their AG. He'll appeal that all the way to the Virginia Supreme Court. I think the Supreme Court, which is, by the way, kind of a center-right Supreme Court, I think they're going to uphold it. I don't think this is going to stand. All right, second news story of the week goes to the federal government. There's $127 billion in tariffs that were imposed by Donald Trump. The Supreme Court said that those tariffs are unconstitutional, were unconstitutional. I happen to agree with that. Look, I love President Trump and the things that he does. I think this was presidential overreach. And so the refund system now goes live. And what that means is over 300,000 businesses that received or that ended up paying higher prices because of the tariffs can now claim refunds. The court reminded the executive branch under that ruling that tariffs are really Congress's power, not the president. Only under very limited emergency circumstances does the tariff power belong to the presidents. In this case, that wasn't the case. And so a lot of money, $127 billion, is going to go back to these businesses. We are in the midst, sticking with the federal government, of the longest government shutdown in history. And I think we're going to see reconciliation 2 come out of this. We're in day 67 of the shutdown. DHS Secretary Mullen says the department is going to run out of money to do their payroll. That's a $1.6 billion per 2-week cycle. They're going to run out of that in May, early May, actually. Why? Because Democrats would rather protect illegal aliens, criminals, rapists, murderers, thugs generally, and their ability to stay in this country. They're more anti-ICE. I'm very pro-ICE. You're very pro-ICE. Democrats are more anti-ICE, anti-DHS than they are pro-America. And so they're preventing a normal budget bill from funding those departments. What's going to happen is there's going to be a reconciliation 2.0 package. Now, reconciliation, it requires less votes. It doesn't require the 60-vote majority to overcome the filibuster. It's a simple majority. Lindsey Graham is the budget chair. He's pushing this package. Why? Because Congress can't get it done through regular appropriations. Now, the thing I really don't like about it, it's going to be $140 billion in more deficit spending. You know how much I love deficit spending, right? Washington's answer to dysfunction, whatever it is always more spending. And honestly, it doesn't matter which party it is. This one, absolutely the fault of the Democrats for shutting down the government. But that extra spending, that's bipartisan. It always points the way to Convention of States, right? All right, here's the next story. The House GOP has pulled Environmental Species Act reform vote that was supposed to be held on Earth Day. Speaker Johnson was unable to whip his own party, the so-called Republicans, to roll back overreach under the Endangered Species Act. And what this tells you and me is that even when the GOP holds the gavel, they can't get out of their own way. They can't do the things that you and I would want them to do. I don't blame Speaker Johnson for this. I blame the caucus not delivering what the American people want, which is reform, 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 reduce the size and scope of government, get them out of our own business. This should tell you, like it tells me, that Congress will never, and I do mean never, fix itself. It will never fix itself. This just isn't going to happen. So when we hope and whine and scream and complain about Congress not fixing itself, well, that's never going to happen. So stop whining about that and just call a convention of states. Going back to a state-based action and actually building this back into what we were talking about, redistricting. Florida is going to jump into the redistricting fight. I love that. They are about to have a special session aimed at getting 5 more GOP seats as a counter punch to what Virginia is trying to do. Good news is the Texas redistricting, which I think gained us 4 or 5 seats, is been upheld already. The Florida redistricting will be upheld because they're actually doing it legally according to the right constitutional procedure in Florida. And there are going to be 5 more seats. And what that shows is the states are the battleground. That's what we say, right? That's where it should be. Battleground moving to the states, Florida, as always, leading the way. And what that means is 5 more seats, net benefit to Republicans. I'm pretty happy about that. You should be happy with that. Always thanks to Governor Ron DeSantis, and hopefully continuing thanks to the Florida legislature. I do worry about what happens to Florida after Ron DeSantis has done. He's been a particularly excellent governor. Flipping back to Congress now. We're going back and forth. Congress, show how bad it is. States, show how they can be a lot better. Let's go back to Congress and just show how incredibly bad they are. So this is a case for term limits, really. You see this week, I can't even pronounce her name, Representative Sheila Churphillis McCormick. She resigned Tuesday, an hour before a House Ethics Committee was set to sanction her for 24 plus more ethics violations. I mean, this woman was just using her seat to steal money, plain and simple. If you look at the ethics violations, she knew the writing was on the wall. She resigned. But it's important to note that she follows Republican Tony Gonzalez. He resigned earlier this month over some pretty horrible sexual misconduct allegations. The victim of the allegations in his case ultimately committed suicide. She was married. He was married. Horrible situation. Eric Swalwell, Democrat, resigned earlier this month over very horrible sexual misconduct allegations. By the way, I know they have to be convicted to be proven guilty. People don't normally resign when they're not guilty. And right now, under ethics probe for financial misconduct and sexual harassment is a Republican from Florida, and that is Corey Mills. I don't know what comes out of that, but we've got 4 members going down, it looks like, in a single month. If that's not the case for term limits, what is the case for term limits, right? I don't understand that. So you gotta understand, Congress is never, ever, never, never, ever. I said that earlier before, never going to impose term limits on itself. If we want term limits, you and we are going to have to impose term limits on Congress. All right, let's head to the international view right now. I would say the most interesting thing to happen this week, Iran continues to be the most interesting thing in the news. Trump issued shoot to kill orders in the Hormuz Strait, meaning if he sees Iranian boats out there, they're trying to do anything, plant mines, which is what they claim they're going to do. He gave instructions to the U.S. military, shoot to kill. All of their mine laying boats are gone. They're all laying at the bottom of the ocean, but you can literally take mines out in little inflatable boats and place mines. So he's going to stop that. This is week 9 of the Iran war. That is still a very, very short war. While there are casualties and our hearts go out and our prayers follow those casualties, both wounded and killed, it is literally the lowest casualty rate in the history of war. Not just this war, not just our war, but the entire war. And so, what's going on right now is we are seeing Trump reorder the world in a positive way for freedom, in my opinion, all across the board. And my thing about it, people are getting upset. Oh, it's taking so long. I say, let the man cook. I think he's doing an incredible job. The war is going incredibly well. We've destroyed their capacity for forward facing war. That's part of the deal. The nuclear weapons are off the table. We got to get the nuclear remnants out of there. Ballistic missiles are dead. Their ability to rebuild that stuff, their factory capacity is gone. And so now it's just time to sort of put a bow on this whole thing. Be patient. This is complicated stuff. There is a split in the regime in Iran. There is the quote unquote regime. And then there are the Revolutionary Guard Corps. They have a different opinion of how this thing should go. They'll fight to the death. That split is self-evident now. And the question is how that resolves. I don't know the answer to that. But personally, I give President Trump a lot of room to just cook. Let's talk about what's up in the world of COS. Speaking about the world, obviously we're not worldwide, but we have our own world here in the United States. Last week I was in Washington, D.C. The reason I was there, a couple of reasons, always working with folks in the administration, spreading the good word about COS, did a whole bunch of that. And then we had our interns in town, and this is the Emerging Leaders Program. This is the end of a one-year program. They were there. We got to meet with the Sec War, Pete Hegseth. That was super cool. Got a tour of the Pentagon, now appropriately referred to as the Department of War. Got a bunch of photos there. The interns actually got to meet with Pete Hegseth, the Sec War. That's a very cool thing. Almost nobody gets to do that. I mean, the guy's in the middle of a war. The fact that he took 10 or 15 minutes to hang out with us, very, very cool opportunity. They got to go over to the DOJ, meet a lot of people from the Office of Legal Policy at the DOJ. Then we got to go to the EOB, which is the Executive Office Building on the White House campus. Got to meet with a lot of people, including Kelly Means from the MAHA movement, the head of MAHA in the White House working for HHS. I got to meet with Jared Borg. Jared is the head of the intergovernmental relations, our intergovernmental at the White House. In other words, he interacts with all the states on behalf of the White House and some other fantastic people from OMB, et cetera. Really great meetings. That was the coolest thing. Now, next week, I'll be headed to Houston, Texas. Be doing a bunch of donor work in Houston, and then I'm off to Arkansas. I'm going to be there Tuesday, April 28th, 10 a.m., 12 p.m. at the state capitol. I'll be there for what we call our surge, where our grassroots will flood the legislature, talk to all the legislators, make sure they know about Convention of States, preserve that resolution. They were the 13th state to pass COS. We're going to maintain that, but we're always rallying the legislators, the grassroots at the state capitals every single year. We want to keep that momentum up. I'll also be there for a very special honorarium, which is to honor State Senator Gary Stubblefield. Gary was a longtime champion of Convention of States, got it across the finish line. Unfortunately, he passed away, and we want to make sure we do the appropriate honors for Gary Stubblefield. Look, we've got a lot of folks in this movement that are in my age range and older. I'm 64. As we get older, we're going to lose patriots on the battlefield. We want to make sure we provide them with the appropriate honor. I've heard that a bunch of members of Senator Stubblefield's family are going to be there for that honorarium. Really important we honor these folks in the proper way. These are the people who make the movement possible. It's not just grassroots activists, it's grassroots politicians. That movement, it's not slowing down. It's accelerating state by state. We're building the movement with boots on the ground. So I'm excited to go to Arkansas. If you can be anywhere near the state capitol, that's April 28th, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. local time. Look forward to meeting you there. A couple of reminders. We have a veterans petition push going on right now. Our goal is to get to over 350,000 veterans. Think about how cool that is. We are well over 300,000 right now. We want to do this by the end of May and be over 350,000. You can go to conventionofstates.com/petition. If you're a veteran or if you know people are veterans, get them to sign the petition and notate that they are a veteran. Let's go to Ask Mark Anything. This is super important. I want you guys to ask me all the questions you have, any question, whatever it is. John Gray asked, don't you think stopping any chance Iran has a nuclear weapon is worth it? Biden sent them $16 billion. Hillary sent them uranium. Obama gave them another $1.6 billion to get nuclear. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's worth the cost. And by the way, it's not just to prevent them from going nuclear, but that's important. You want to know what would happen if they go nuclear? Look at the Koreas, right? Look what happened on the Korean Peninsula. We have an insane nuclear power there. We can't really do much except for contain it. Remember, Iran had regional aspirations. They threatened their neighbors all the time. For 47 years, they've been striking at and killing Americans. It was absolutely time. This is going to reorder the entire world order because Iran fed Hezbollah. Iran fed Hamas. Iran was in Venezuela. We now help control Venezuela. We have an administration there that's a lot more friendly to the United States. We control Venezuelan oil, controlling Iranian oil, controlling the Straits of Hormuz, blockading the Straits of Hormuz is beneficial for the U.S. So it's absolutely worth it. I appreciate the question, John. Mark Ransom asks, how can we be sure the power of the lobbyist-controlled and corrupted Congress will not just transfer to the lobbyist control of state representatives? Look, Mark, I don't think the states are perfect, and I do think that states are subject to lobbying in a similar way. Here's the difference. When you're a lobbyist and you can go to Washington, D.C., and you can affect all the senators, all the congressmen, all the states, all at once, that's the place to be. It is much harder for the lobby to go around state by state. Trust me, I know. I'm a lobbyist, right? I lobby for Convention of States. To have to go to all 50 states, build relationships in all 50 states, get business done in all 50 states, it's way harder. So it's not that the lobbyists won't be there. They're already there, by the way. It's just that it is a much harder way to get control on any issue because you got to deal with it in all 50 states. Last one is from Joe Webb, not a question, just a comment. Thank you for your common sense approach. I hope I can always be a patriot. Joe, you are a patriot. I appreciate that. And the common sense approach matters. It's really important to me, you guys. Politics is nuanced. Life is nuanced, right? And when you look at the people who are the rage baiters, the click baiters out there, what they want you to do is be angry, be aggravated, be frustrated, be upset. And they're going to simplify everything for you into black and white. That's horrible. That's fantastic. That's satanic. That's godly. They're going to do this with everything to try and get your cortisol flowing to make you angry so that you'll follow them, so that you'll retweet them, so that you'll repost them, so that you'll give them money and you'll buy their stuff. Don't buy into it. Stop, breathe, use your common sense. I trust you guys. This doesn't mean that there aren't conspiracies out there that are actual, real, and true, but it still does mean that most of the conspiracy theories that you hear, theories floated by people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and a lot more in there, like Nick Fuentes and the Hodge twins, a lot of bad folks out there doing a lot of bad stuff. When you listen to those guys, stop. Don't just act. I mean, first of all, I would say don't listen to them. Not in favor of deplatforming them. I think they should be able to speak all they want. I just think if they have smart listeners, they're not going to have any listeners. So if you're listening to that stuff and it's giving you brain rot, I would just suggest that you stop. I mean, really, listening to Candace Owens and listening to Mark Meckler, that's incompatible. Listening to Tucker Carlson and listening to Mark Meckler, that's incompatible. Now, I acknowledge, look, both those folks have way more listeners or viewers than I have. They're way more popular. I think part of the reason for that is that the clickbait, the rage baiting is more popular. I'm not going to try and be popular by telling you things that just make you angry, make you frustrated. What we're going to do here is we aim at solutions. We try to be realistic. We try to be nuanced. We try to give you solutions. We try to give you practical approaches to things. That's what I'm trying to do. Why am I trying to do that? I'm trying to get rich doing this. I'm trying to save the republic. For me, for you, for our kids, for our grandkids. I actually think that's the most important thing we do. If you're watching this, which you are obviously, when you're watching this, ring the bell, click the follow button, pass this on to your friends and family. That's how we get the word out. Don't forget, every Sunday night, join me back here for the BattleCry. God bless you guys. We'll see you next week.